Hello and welcome to the Can I Retire Now podcast with your hosts, Nick Russell and Becky Wagoner. I'm your podcast producer, RJ Malik. Nick and Becky, again, always great to see you. And I see the title of today's podcast, Nick, is In-Service Distributions. Tell us what's going on with that.
All right, RJ. So, I come home from work. I'm excited. I'm helping people. And I come up and goes, "How was your day?" And I was like, "Hey, I did an in-service distribution for a client today and it worked out great. And I'm really excited about what we're going to do." And I start to see her like just glaze over as I'm explaining
I
what
was
I'm doing. And
instantly transported back to college finance classes where I could like hear someone talking and was actively like floating away from my body like this is not it.
I understand and can relate to that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And you have to understand Nick is very excited by this. He comes home, it's like his face is giving like action thriller movie. His words are giving documentary. Okay. So I really, Nick, this is going to be a hard topic for me because I need you to bring the energy so it's not
okay.
just like a lecture. Okay.
So to prep anybody listening,
Mhm.
I talked about this and watched Becky fade away right in front of
Disassociate.
my
Yeah.
eyes. Yeah, she
Mhm.
was staring at us from the ceiling, basically. And I said, "Look, come up with a couple of questions. Let's just do some Q&A on in-service distributions, and I could try to teach you and RJ about it and the listeners, and maybe that'll make it a little easier. I'll let you ask the questions, yeah, and I'll just answer them instead of me just starting to like explain all these little nuances."
Yeah, that could lose us all real quick. So,
Okay. So I am
yeah,
prepared to play interview E, I guess, and
sure.
Becky.
Yeah.
What you got?
All right, get excited. We're talking
I'm
about
pumped. I am so
in-service
excited about this.
distributions, whatever
Yeah.
those are. All right,
Yeah.
let's get ready. Hey, Nick, what is an in-service distribution and how is it different than another distribution just
Okay.
regularly for retirement? Remember, not documentary. Let's
Okay.
feel this.
Baseline,
Okay.
and I want to make sure there's a level of understanding so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is traditionally going to be your employer-sponsored plans. So your 401k, 403bs, that kind of stuff.
Got it.
Normally, if you have a plan at an employer, you work at Disney, let's say, you have a 401k there, that plan has to stay there as long as you are there. When you retire or change jobs, you can then do a rollover, right? You could roll it over to an IRA like we've talked about in the past. So far, are you with me?
So far? Yeah.
Oh, I
Haven't
love
lost
it.
me yet.
Good.
Okay.
Good. All right. So an in-service distribution is when you essentially take a rollover while you're still employed.
Now that you just said that wasn't allowed.
It's normally not allowed. So here we go. Oh God, she's disassociating. I can see it. She's fading.
Okay. So why is it
okay.
allowed sometimes?
So it has to be written into the plan documents of the actual plan. So for most people, I'll use Disney again as an example, where they have like 200,000 employees. You have access to the plan documents, but you didn't create the 401k. Yeah, no one's
doing
Absolutely.
that. No. Mm-mm.
So first, not every plan has this as an option, but
it's a real niche thing. Okay.
It is. And it's probably half the plans I come across on a regular basis have this available. So it's not
good portion.
rare, but yeah.
Is it more common for bigger companies than smaller companies? Okay.
Yes. It's not exclusive to larger companies, but I have found that it's a little more common in larger companies. And the idea here is that you have to reach a certain age limit. And of course, because nothing's easy, it's not always the same age.
They didn't use one that they've already used before? What
they
age
did,
is it?
but some plans it's 55. That's probably the earliest I've seen it. Most plans are 59 and a half because everybody likes a half year, of course.
Yeah, we do. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some that are 65. But 59
I feel like they're
and a half
intentionally making this hard. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because why would it be easy, right? Why would we make anything easy for anybody nowadays? But at 59 and a half is kind of the most common. So we'll use that as an example. So let's say I'm 60. I can now transfer part or all of my 401k assets to an IRA as if I retired already. Now, it does not affect your current plan. So you still make contributions to your current plan. New money goes in there. You still get your match. There's no like your HR company, your HR department doesn't care about it. Like it's just something you can do. But you can then move that money into your own IRA. That isn't in concept what an in-service distribution is.
All right. So it's like a rollover while you're staying with the same company.
While you're still employed, yeah.
Once you've reached age 59 and a half or whatever your plan says,
Yes.
and they offer that in their thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of plans allow you to move the entire balance of your account. Some allow you half. Some allow you only what you've contributed in your earnings. Every plan's a little different. So this is another example of these are calls I make with clients. Because if a client starts to call and you talk to the 800 number person at, Fidelity or Vanguard or Lincoln, you start talking about distributions, they might not understand what you're asking for.
Okay. So in terms of can anyone do this, saying your plan has it and you're age 59 and a half, you're saying it might be hard to do it on your own unless you specifically know what you're looking for.
Correct. Yeah. This is one that I don't want to like gatekeep or anything, but this is something that I've seen people attempt to do this and make the wrong type of withdrawal, which has massive negative effects. And it's because not every plan has it. And because I've talked to customer service reps that don't even know what in-service distributions are. Then we find out it's in the plan. And then they're struggling to figure out how to process it correctly. So, me being on the phone helps because I know what we're trying to do and I can catch if they're starting to do something wrong. So can everybody do it? No. If your plan allows it, if you're old enough, and I guess if you have an IRA already set up, those would be your.
You need the IRA set up also because it has
well,
to go
you need somewhere for the money to go.
Oh yeah, you're not just taking this and putting it in your own bank account. It has to go to another retirement account.
Because do you know what happens if you put it in your bank account?
Probably taxes.
Bingo, your favorite.
Oh, it's always
you're going to get taxed on that money as if it was ordinary income. So let's say you have $100,000 in your 401k. Imagine just adding $100,000 of untaxed income on your tax return. The IRS is licking their lips. They're excited. You're going to stroke them a check for 20 grand, 25 grand. That's now lost out of your account.
So it's a distribution to specifically, most likely an IRA. Okay.
Correct. And it's considered, they call it a distribution. I will use the word rollover, even though it's technically not a rollover. But that's semantics. People understand
but the word
rollover.
Is in service distribution.
Distribution. Yeah.
In service meaning still employed.
Correct.
I'm guessing.
Correct.
It's coming together. Okay. You haven't lost me. I'm still here. This is good. All right. So
I'm excited.
Can you give me an example of when this would be benefit? Like, why would I want to do this if I can just keep it in my 401k and keep rolling along like normal? Like, what's the perk? Why do all this extra work that I need help with in researching my plan and blah, 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 blah. What's the why?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to blippity bloppity, whatever that was. But yeah, so why would someone do this? And I would not recommend that everybody just try to do this, right? Because one strategy is not going to be the right for everybody, right? But I'll give you a couple of examples that come to mind. Like my client that we just did it for the other day, which is why I was excited, which is why I was telling you about it. He's about 5 years from retirement. And now he's of age. He can do this in-service distribution. So in his case, the options in his 401k aren't bad inherently, like the investment options. But if we roll it to an IRA, because I'm an independent advisor, we can literally invest in anything we want.
You have more options. Oh.
Yeah. So let's say you're somebody as you're getting close to retirement and you're concerned about the market selling off, like the market crashing prior to your retirement. That could be detrimental, right? Mm-hmm. So normally people then put their money in cash or bonds or whatever. They become conservative. This could will affect your total balance when you do retire. And potentially you would have less because you were worried. But what if we roll that money or in-service distribute that money to an IRA and we buy principal protected investments where you can't lose money, or downside protected where they're eating or protecting the first 15, 20, 25% of losses in a given year? Then you could still be invested, still make a decent return. But if the market does sell off, now you're like coated in bubble wrap. Like you got a little bit of protection, right? So I
Okay.
think investment choice is a big one. That's probably, just having the opportunity to invest in anything you like. Most people, they go through their 401k, they have like one international fund to choose from. And if it's okay, great. If it's not, that's your only option. So it gives you all of those investment options.
Is there a maximum amount you can roll and a limit to how many times you can do this? I imagine they're not going to like it if you just continually keep like sweeping things out.
Yeah, so great question. So the maximum would be the maximum of the account, whatever the account balance is.
Oh, you can take the whole thing.
Yeah, in a lot of plans, you could take the whole thing if you want. A lot of them restrict it to just the money you've put in and the growth on that money.
Not
and
the
then some
okay.
just have a stipulation on the balance. You can do a distribution of 50% of your account.
Okay, so
period.
it's plan specific,
Yeah,
but and widely varies, it sounds like. Okay.
correct. And then as far as how often can you do it, you can usually do one of these a year.
One a
So
year,
if you
but not.
if you do one today, you have to wait till 365 days later to do it again.
Okay, but no, like you get one chance to do this,
Yeah.
and then okay, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
So my client that I was helping the other day that I was really excited about, it wasn't really an investment choice benefit. What we did was we were planning on him investing in an income producing product. So I don't think we've even done an episode on annuities yet, but like in detail. But there was an annuity he was really interested in that basically you put money in. When you go to take the money out later, they give you a fixed income payment for the rest of your life. No matter how long you live, no matter if that account balance goes to zero, they're going to keep paying you. And
Okay.
the one we were looking at, every year that he waits to draw the income, he gets a higher percentage of income. So his account balance presumably goes up and he gets a higher percentage.
So there was a perk to getting it there sooner. So there was
Bingo.
a longer delay in taking it.
So if we waited until he retired at 65 and then put money in this, well, now we need income. So we need it now. So we would get whatever, let's say 5% income. But if he puts it in now and we let that tick away for 5 years and then press the income, he's now going to get about an 8% withdrawal rate on, again, presumably a larger balance of money. But even if it was the same amount of money, getting 8% of that account balance guaranteed for life, let's say it's $1 million, that's $80,000 for life. 5% is $50,000 a year for life. That is a massive difference.
Yeah.
And by guaranteeing that income to him, the rest of his money, investment money, can be allocated around that, knowing that we're not going to demand as much from that. So that's what, and I could see your eyes now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was like the concept.
We got real in the nitty gritty. Okay.
But that's like a real reason why you would do that. Like, why would I do this now and not when I retire? The answer is there something you could do with this money now that you can't do when you retire, or that the benefit is better now? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think I understand in-service distributions, and
you're both still awake.
You only lost me at the very end when we switched to annuities.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. I'm back. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Okay. So you have to talk to your advisor if you have one. If you don't, I mean, honestly, anybody who's listening to this at this point in our podcast, I'm excited by how many people listen to this and all this, but reach out to us on the website. I'll find time to make the call with you, because if you call, and remember, we called it an in-service distribution. There is something called an in-service withdrawal.
Oh my
Not the same thing.
Yeah.
There's transfers, there's rollovers, not the same thing.
No. Okay.
So you need to make sure that if you are interested in something like this and you want to take advantage of it, that you're having like you're not translating the language with the person on the other side of the phone, that you guys are speaking the same language.
All right. That's good.
So, yeah.
So
Do
considering
you
I
feel
had
informed?
I
Do you
feel
feel
informed.
so good about it? Yeah.
I'm ready for the quiz later. So
Oh, how'd you know when I got home tonight that I was going to quiz you on this? How'd you know?
So considering I had no idea what this was, I was hard pressed to come up with a fun fact. So I
Okay.
kind of pivoted, knowing that it was somehow related to a 401k. I did at least garner that much when we talked about it. So I have a fun fact on when and how the 401k was created. Right?
Oh,
We know that it's named after the IRS code and section, right? Like it's
mhm.
401 subsection K or whatever, drilling information. But when and how did the 401k start? Do you know how long they've been around, Nick?
No, actually, I think they've been around our entire lifetime. So prior to 82, prior to the
Yes,
80s.
you were
Oh,
very close. Yeah. So, in 1978, the IRS passed the provision, Section 401k of the tax law, that gave employees a tax-free way to save. The first 401k plan went into action in 1981.
oh, it was real
Um,
close.
at Johnson and Johnson company. There was like a contractor there that was trying to maximize this new IRS code, and he couldn't find anyone that was interested in doing it. He offered it to a couple of different other companies, and finally Johnson and Johnson was the one that said, "Yes, let's try this out here." His name was Ted Benna, and I have a picture of him, and all I can say is he looks like a TV dad from the 1980s, like gotcha, like he's putting it like finger guns kind of situation.
Yeah,
Looks kind of nerdy, but like he has good advice. That's what he looks like.
sounds like
Anyway,
my kind of guy.
yeah.
Finger
So
guns.
he's the one that basically didn't invent the 401k, but came up with the plan to use it, and then got Johnson and Johnson to use it. And employees loved the fact that they could save, and there was a match offered and everything. So that's kind of the history, and it kind of coincides with the fact that pensions were on the decline and everything, and it now became the responsibility of employees to save for their retirement rather than the employers.
I was going to say, I was working then, and
Okay.
this was I had just started my career, and pensions were really struggling. Big companies were having a lot of problems with their pensions. So this was not something that, oh, this is going to be really good for the employees. And I think, Nick, you would know, with a pension, it's pretty much set. But with a 401k, you really got to pay attention to it. And I think that's been an issue. I know in my case, my personal case, I didn't pay attention to my 401k for years. And with a pension, my understanding was all these big companies were running into problems because the pensions were pretty lucrative for the retirees. They did pretty well. So, again, my perception is, yeah, they came up with this 401k plan because it
It
was
shifted the
beneficial.
responsibility. Yeah.
Right. And it was more beneficial for the big companies than it was for, if you didn't pay attention to it, for the employees. That's just my.
You guys, yeah, you guys are absolutely right. It's exactly why 401ks today, now fast forward 40 plus years, are by far the predominant employee benefit when it comes to retirement over pensions. Is those pensions were the company's responsibility to make sure they were funded properly. And as you can imagine, as people retired in mass and lived a long time, and they kept
They were
paying
starting
all
to
these,
live longer. Yeah.
yeah,
So
paying all these benefits, shifting that responsibility to the employee was a no-brainer. Now you can give them a little bit of a match. It feels good. You put money in, I'll put money in. It's so different than the pensions where they said, "Oh no, I'm just going to take care of you," and it's helped, but it also has created um, like a tracking or a dependency issue for the employees, because now, Becky and me, I mean, at our age, 43, I'll be, if I don't put money away in my retirement account, there's nothing for me at retirement other than Social Security, right? Which, if it's there, and that's a whole nother conversation, it might fund me $3,000 a month. Well, Becky doesn't have any expensive habits, but that's not a lot of money to spend in a given month.
Well, we can maybe thank or blame Ted Benna, because at least it's now an option for us, and it's actually the primary way to do it. So good for him, and at least Johnson took a chance.
There's a plan that you can follow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, there's if you, put time and effort into it, which I take responsibility for not doing, it turns out pretty well. I mean, or I should say, I didn't start paying attention to it until, probably in my 50s is when I started paying attention to it. That's my fault. That's on me.
Well, and RJ, but you're right. It because that focus has shifted, and now we all have to pay attention of our own stuff. Of course, it's, I guess, job security for me, right? It's like not everybody's an expert at this stuff, so they need help with it. But that's why year by year, like if you look at your account, you don't need to be looking at it every day. You don't need to drive yourself crazy. But I just helped a client yesterday. Their employer changed plans, so we were getting them signed up on his new plan. One of the options said, would you like an automatic increase? Like, you're contributing 10% every year. Would you like us to bump that up by 1% automatically?
Oh, nice.
And so
automation is the key to saving.
And if you're not doing something like that, or not revisiting, well, this year I got a raise, and this client got a raise. What we did was we took the entire raise, because they don't need it as income. And actually recently their expenses have gone down. We calculated what percentage of his income is his raise and just put it all in the 401k. And that way now he's living on the same amount of money, but now he's getting more contributions in there.
Really cranking up those savings.
Well,
and maybe potentially lining himself up for an in-service distribution. But,
potentially, once he reaches age, we will look into that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was very, yeah, wow.
I like that. That was really good.
Yeah.
Is your degree in marketing or what is it? Communication? That was sweet. That was just smooth.
I do have a question, Nick.
Sure.
With the 401ks and how much you want to take out of your salary every pay period. Once you set it, could it change? I mean, percentage wise, not voluntarily. I thought at one point I was at 10% contributing, and of course, again, on me, I didn't look. Next time I look, it was 5%, and I know I didn't change it.
So yeah, that shouldn't have happened. Now I will. Yeah. So the company, like your employer or the retirement plan itself, doesn't have authorization to make those changes. Unless you do this, like, I agree, every year increase it by 1%, roll-ups. But I will tell you, when your plan changes at work, so let's say your company's using Vanguard and now they're switching to Fidelity, there are three things that I see happen a lot. Now, less nowadays, but I still see them. One, when the assets transfer over, they're supposed to, they call it mapping. They're supposed to match, hey, you had a large stock fund. We're going to put that amount in this large stock fund. They're different funds, but they're going to try to match it up.
Mirror it up. Yeah.
Mirror it. I have seen time and time again, people look at their new plans and it's all in cash, or it's all in one other fund, because there wasn't like a natural match. So they just put it in cash. You don't want your 401k sitting in cash. The contribution amounts change. I've seen that one happen. And probably the most really upsetting one for me is the beneficiaries go away. So when the plan changes, imagine I have a 401k and Becky's my primary beneficiary. We change providers, and now my primary beneficiary is my estate. So who's really upset about that? Wife. Who's really excited about it? IRS. Because they're going to come in, and if it goes to my estate, it's all public information. It's all taxable. And they'll get it to Becky eventually, whatever's left.
They're
but
always
they're going to come
out
in
there.
and grab a piece. So
Yeah.
retirement accounts transition very easily when you have the
Yeah.
beneficiaries listed. So yeah, a couple little tidbits there.
All right.
So that was a fun fact, Becky. I got to give you credit. I did not know It's funny. I've been in the business 20 years. I've never looked into when 401ks started.
There's
So that's kind
actually,
of a
at the dork in me, there's some decently written, entertaining articles about it online. All you have to Google is who invented the 401k. And he comes up and he looks all like, hey, I'm a sly guy, and then tells you all about it. So,
You know what
I
I'll
think he's
ask?
still alive today. So,
I'm going to ask that
yeah.
if you could get me the links to those, we'll get
Yeah.
them up on the website under this episode of the podcast as a resource. That way, if anybody wants to nerd out with you, they can
Brief
do that.
reads, but, interesting. So,
Cool.
Very nice. All right. Nick, contact information.
All right. Contact information. Website's still going to be the easiest. sunrisewealthadvisors.com. I mentioned it before. We have do you have questions box in there. If you have questions about in-service distributions or anything else, just put a little note in there. You don't have to share any personal information. Just, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What are things I have to pay attention to? Happy to share any advice I can. We're also on all social medias, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Instagram, all of them. And the podcast you can watch on YouTube or listen to on Spotify or Apple Music.
Very good. Nick and Becky, a difficult topic, but I think you both handled it very well.
Very mature, Becky. Very well done. I got to tell you.
yeah. Thanks for
you
keeping it
stayed
action-packed,
engaged.
Nick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Looking forward to your next podcast, and thank you for listening to today's Can I Retire Now podcast. Until next time, for Nick and Becky, I'm RJ Malik.